all good. Well, man, it's great to meet you. Before we get into the new album, which I've thoroughly enjoyed, I would love to know, we're going on the 4-year anniversary of this pandemic. How did you get through the pandemic, and how did it subsequently change you?
Well, I actually, I mean, uh, I hate what it did for a lot of people, but actually for me, it wasn't a bad experience. It was a chance to. I wrote all the music on that CD during the pandemic and did a lot of the initial recording of the electronic parts, which took a long time. And I wrote a lot of other music too, so it was almost like an artist retreat. At least in this state, we were all getting unemployment, and it was kind of just a chance to practice a lot and write a lot of music and try not to get really sick. Um, but it was an okay experience for me.
Yeah.
I'd always wanted to do this project, but I don't know if I would have been able to hunker down and put in all the time if I hadn't sort of had that little freebie for a while.
So, Improbable Solutions, I love the name of the album. How did the title come about, and how did you artistically stitch this project together?
Well, the title came about. I have a lot of trouble coming up with titles, and in this case, I wanted a title that both kind of referred to the music and also might suggest a good design for the cover.
Yeah.
And it refers to the project in a couple ways. The improbable solution is just the solution I found to doing acoustic music with a lot of electronic pre and post production, which a lot of people use electronics nowadays, but I haven't really heard people use them in the same way that I have. So that it was that kind of improbable solution, and then if you could look at just electronic music and jazz as a like solution, like a liquid compound or something, it was that. And then we got that nice cover image of a. I had never done a project like this before, and I don't think anybody's done one exactly in this way. So I kind of created my process as I went along. But I've been making purely electronic music for probably about 10 years now. On my computer, I have a lot of sample libraries, and I'm also really into sound effects and effects processing. I have a background in analog electronic music from when I went to Oberlin. So I at least have, even though it's digital now and it's kind of a different reality, I have a fundamental understanding of how sound works and how to sculpt it, kind of.
Yeah.
And the way I actually went about it, to answer your question more directly, is first of all, I wrote 24 tunes during the pandemic, and all of them were written with this project in mind. All of them, if you listen closely, you'll hear that even though the electronics are mixed pretty low, there are moments in each piece where the electronics kind of come forward. So I had to build that into the pieces. Pretty much all of them, where they're just sections where it feels a little less like an acoustic project for a minute and a little more like an electronic thing. So I recorded purely electronic versions of all 24 tunes, including my doing fake drums, drum programming, and fake bass parts and fake everything, because I just needed to hear roughly how they were going to sound.
Yeah.
And then I ruled out about half of them. I think we wound up doing recording maybe 10 or 11. There were just a few I didn't use. Um, but that was it. I recorded everything purely electronically. And then we went in the studio. The bass player and drummer who I've been working with for a long time, Chris Simon and Jose Martinez, it was a 2-day session and they replaced all their parts. My parts are primarily on actual keyboard. It sounds like a piano. In fact, even people who are in the business of using sample piano libraries couldn't tell. Nobody can tell, but it's not a real piano. The
Yeah.
process was just mixing it and creating new sounds as I heard opportunities for them. Once the bass and drum parts were in place, it gave me a much better idea of how I needed all the electronic parts to work. And I just kind of got in there real close, note by note almost, and tried to make the sounds make sense with what we had done.
Right on.
And it
No,
was a
that's fascinating. What are you hoping the listener gets from this project?
well, more than anything, I hope they enjoy it.
Yeah.
Um, I hope that people will hear it somewhere other than in their cars,
Yeah.
because a lot of the electronic sounds and a lot of the effects I use are really not in your face at all. And with road noise, I just heard one on Pandora last night while I was driving, and road noise really gets in the way of hearing what's going on. I mean, it's best listened to on headphones, second best on good speakers, Worst would be in a car, and unfortunately, that's going to be how a lot of people hear it because that's how a lot of people listen. But yeah, I don't have any fundamental message I'm trying to send or anything like that. When you ask, I just hope people enjoy it, and yeah, I don't think it sounds like other things. So if people enjoy it, that's great because people by and large tend to like what they've heard before.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Creatures of habit. How did this jazz journey begin for you? Are you originally from Seattle?
Yeah, I grew up here, but actually, I never had piano lessons, never played jazz until halfway through college. When I was at Oberlin, I took a jazz improv on sax. So I'm a very late starter. I didn't have a piano lesson until I was 20. Took a year off, lived at home, took jazz piano lessons. At that time, I was taking jazz piano lessons so I could become a better progressive rock player because I had like a mini Moog, I had a Hammond B3, and that was what I really wanted.
Yeah.
But then getting inside jazz music and seeing how it really works and getting in the mindset of someone who plays it was kind of addictive for me. And it just kind of turned me around. So jazz became my exclusive focus for 40 years, practicing a lot, trying to make up for the technique I didn't have. And
So, what was the first big, like, live jazz show that you saw that blew you away?
that would be the Pat Metheny band. And at that point, they were more of a fusion band. It was his second or third record, the white one with Danny Gottlieb and Mark Agen. You know, the one with Phase
Yeah.
Dance, San Lorenzo. That one. I saw his band right when he had put that out. And for
Yeah.
someone like me that was really into progressive rock and just starting to get into jazz a little bit, it was kind of like the perfect segue.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
After
I
him, go
oh,
ahead.
I'm sorry. It kind of I didn't mean to cut you off. It kind of froze a little bit there. I right before the pandemic began in 2020, I moved into a house in his hometown of Lee Summit. So
Oh,
I'm always talking about something always comes up with Pat Metheny, it seems like. I'm attracting the stories. So
when you drive into Lee's Summit, does it say "Welcome to Lee's Summit, birthplace of Pat Metheny"?
there is on the rail tracks downtown. Downtown's a really kinda nice little area, but there's a
Uh-huh.
big sign that says, "Hometown of Grammy award-winning guitarist Pat Metheny," and there's a silhouette of him. So,
Oh,
yeah.
great. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's
cool.
pretty cool. Yeah. So, talk to me a little bit about after all of these decades that you've been playing music, what do you like the best about being a professional musician?
I like specifically about being a professional jazz musician. I would say I like it when the music is going in a place where it's never gone before, where people are kind of forced to play things that they haven't played before. I really like being challenged by that kind of situation where, you don't have necessarily a bag of tricks that you can resort to, but you have to really deal in the moment with what's going on.
So, let me ask you this, at the end of the day, you decided to make jazz your focal point. Why do you love jazz?
Just what I was saying, and you probably couldn't hear. Uh, I just like having to think spontaneously, and I especially like interacting with other band members who are trying to think spontaneously. I mean, some people say jazz is the only art form with improvisation, and that is not true. Obviously, people take solos in rock, country, whatever, bluegrass. But jazz is the only one where I think people really are trying to and often getting the opportunity to just take each other into unpredicted places. Other forms of music are pretty set, and that's what I like most.
And the one thing too is along with being a musician, you're a jazz humorist, you write. Talk to me a little bit about that side of your life.
Sure, I mean that is definitely an avocation. I I have made money writing, but not since I started writing these jazz stories. I just maybe it's therapeutic. I don't know, but when certainly unless you're a marquee player from day one, you suffer certain indignities as a jazz player, and a lot of them can be really funny if you look at them correctly, you
Yeah.
know, because we just have shit happens to us that doesn't happen to anyone else, and I basically try to write stories about that, and I try to make them funny. Um, it started actually. The very first story I wrote was called "A Guide to." Let's see, what was it called? Jazz Jam Sessions, a primer, I think, or a guide to jazz jam sessions. I sent it to a few friends and over the world who didn't know I had written it because somebody had like taken my name off. sent it around, and it got viral. And to the extent things got viral in those days, and it was coming right back at me, and people were saying, "Hey, you like to write? You'll probably like this." And so I went on a long process of trying to reattach my name to it. But that sort of gave me motivation to keep doing it, and I've written a bunch of stories since then. And then write a jazz etiquette column that's on all about jazz and on Facebook. That's kind of my regular writing.
Yeah.
And at this point, I've written so much. I have probably 5 or 6 stories and hundreds of pages worth of jazz etiquette responses.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to stitch them into a book probably this year.
Oh, cool, man.
Yeah, people keep telling me I should, so at least those people should buy it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you got an audience for
Yeah,
sure.
thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
So what are you doing for live shows? What's coming up here in the warm months and as the year opens up for you?
Um, it's kind of business as usual. I just got back actually yesterday. I played in Yakima, which is almost 3 hours from here, at a really nice venue. It was a concert hall. I have 3 bands that I work with regularly of my own. One is a group I took to Peru once, and I've been there a bunch of times, and I've arranged South American music, and we play that plus my originals. And I have a quartet that's more kind of fusiony with an electric guitarist. And then I have a trio that does nothing but standards. Because over the years, I kind of made it my mission to learn as many tunes as I could, and that is a skill that is rapidly beginning to become meaningless because everybody's got phones with the chord changes of every tune they want to play. But
Yeah.
um, this band, my standards band, we just spontaneously start, no arrangement, no nothing, just start playing standards, see what we can do with them. I don't know if you have my previous CD, which was called Shifting Standards,
Yeah,
but
I do.
that's that trio. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's that trio.
Okay.
So I'm working more and more as a leader and less as a sideman as the years go on. It's not by choice.
Yeah.
I like both, but that's just kind of the way it's evolved.
Yeah. So Bill, at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, fans, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I would say about myself that on the plus side, I'm always looking. I'm very willing to try new things and fail, as on stage. I'm always trying to get away from what I already know and do something different. Um, I would say compared to like the greatest pianists out there, my technique is pretty limited, but I think my imagination is pretty good. And I definitely consider myself at least as good a composer as a writer, as a player. Composing is really easy for me. I could, if you told me to have a tune by the end of the day for you in a certain style with certain things and all that, that's just never a problem. I don't know why. If there
Yeah.
were as many composing opportunities as playing opportunities, I would be doing that.
Yeah. Bill, Improbable Solutions is the latest album. I urge everyone to run out and grab it. Best place would be Bandcamp, I would imagine.
Actually, best place would be my website
Okay.
if people want to go there. Just billanschell.com.
Okay.
Um, Second best place would probably be Origin's website, the record company. They don't mind me telling you to go to my website first. That's just part of our deal.
Yeah, I didn't want to presume. And then
Yeah.
if anybody wants to read your writing, where can they go? Where's the best place?
Also on my website, if you go to billanschell.com, there's a stories tab, and everything I've written is up there pretty much.
Right
And
on.
all my music is free on my website for people to listen to. They have to pay to download it, but everything I've done is up there and available to people.
Cool, man. Bill, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your story. Best of luck with everything. And again, I love the album. Can't wait to profile you on Neon Jazz.
Oh, great. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, man, for sure.